Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Welcome back. Built by the Barn Co. and brought to you by Resto Pros, JC Mad Dog, Mike Morgan, who called that horrific nightmare of a game for Carolina this weekend. We'll get more into that. He joins us, and so does the great Pat DiMarco, the host of Tailgate Talks. Also, he played in the NFL for a while. Are the Bills going to win the Super Bowl? That's the question. That's the burning question. Will the Bills win the Super Bowl?
I guess another question is should Josh win MVP?
Yes.
Yes, he should, I think. I agree with
that.
I
mean, watching the Baltimore game on Saturday, Baltimore has 9. I think they said they have 9 Pro Bowlers, and Lamar Jackson's stats are a little bit better than Josh's, not much. The Bills have 2, Josh being one of them, and they won their division. They have a higher seed. Mm-hmm. I think I agree, Mike. I agree.
If you don't give it to him this year, Pat, they're never going to give it to him because
it's supposed to be the most valuable player for their team in the league, right?
Remember what the reaction was when they let Stephon Diggs go? Oh, no, now you really have no weapons for Josh Allen. He's got a bunch of receivers that most people couldn't name in a lineup, and they play in the worst weather of any team in the NFL. Remember, Minnesota plays in the Dome.
Yep.
He's had games where he just put up insane numbers. He doesn't have a Mark
Andrews. He has 2 6-touchdown games this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's your guy this year. And Lamar's won it the last 2 years. He's been terrific. I don't have anything bad to say about Lamar other than he never does it in the postseason. But yeah, if you don't give it to Josh Allen this year, I don't think you're ever going to give it to him.
Yep, which is a shame because over the last 4 years, he's been one of the best players in the league.
And if Cincinnati had a defense, Joe Burrow would be part of this discussion as well because he's been phenomenal. There's nobody that throws a prettier ball than Joe Burrow.
Yeah, big question. Do Bills win the Super Bowl? I think they got as good a shot as any. Although the AFC doesn't go through Buffalo, which stinks. They're going to have to go to KC if they make it that far, or when they make it that far. Playing in Buffalo is no – the wind's blowing 15, 20 miles an hour every day, gust 40, 50, whether you get snow, sleet, rain, blizzards, nobody knows. So, no, I'm excited to watch it. It's going to be a very fun, entertaining playoff lineup coming up this weekend and then next.
Where is the Super Bowl this year?
Super Bowl is in
New Orleans.
Is it New Orleans?
New Orleans.
Oh, yeah, it is in New Orleans. Yeah, that's right. Ooh,
hopefully the mayor there and the chief of police will show a modicum of professionalism and actual competence so we don't have to worry about another mess like we saw a few weeks ago.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, I'm hoping it's the Bills and the Lions for what it's worth in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that'd be a heck of a game. What was it, 44-42 was the matchup that they had in the regular season?
Yeah, the question
is drive a lot of views.
Yeah.
Can the Lions get there? That's the question. And can the Bills get there?
Yeah.
All right, Pat. Well, that's the Super Bowl. The Citrus Bowl was played last week down in Orlando. Gamecocks fall, of course. So, we're going to kind of wrap the season with you here. And we're going to give you some time off, Pat. You need to refresh and rejuvenate yourself and get ready. You need to get back in the weight room. You got a lot of stuff to do in the off season. But you just give us your general synopsis of what you saw, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I was actually down there in Orlando for the bowl game like yourself, JB. Unfortunately, we weren't able to link up, but it was definitely a Gamecock home game.
No question.
I would say 70% of the stadium was pulling for the good guys.
Absolutely.
It was a very weird game, weird flow. I don't feel like the play calling was very aggressive offensively. I was hoping to see more like downfield passing. Norris played a little more reserved than he had in the Clemson game, the most recent one that we played. There's a lot of drama. Guys couldn't move off the field very fast at times. Substitutions were an issue. The weird kickoff return play, which is like, I understand both sides of the argument. but that was interesting. I was standing on the sideline when that whole debacle happened.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, we played good enough to win the game and had plenty of chances to win the game. Weird. I mean, Steve and I on Tailgate Talks kind of criticized Cam Ward for playing to get his record and then sitting out the second half. Unfortunately, Nicky did the same. I mean, for his own reasons, I'm surprised he played as a potential first-round pick. So kudos to him for playing. We definitely could have used him in the second half. But no, I mean, all in all, like 9 wins, 10 wins would have been freaking awesome, 4th time in school history. But obviously everything is trending in the right directions, coming off 5-7 last year. Big uptick, 9-4 with a lot of positive buzz. Transfer portal's been good to us so far. Signing class was good so far. Hopefully I answered your question without being
You did. Yeah. Well, I wanted to hear what your response was so we could kind of skate around and hit all the big points. Let's talk about the play calling and stuff like that for a second, because I disagree with you a little bit, which I think in America you can still do that and have respect for people. But I disagree with you a little bit. However, I am not Pat DiMarco, and I do not have the football mind of Pat DiMarco, so I'm going to see if he can change mine. I actually thought that I'm not going to say it's perfect, Pat. I don't know what the plays are or anything like that, but I thought overall Mike Shula actually called a really good game. I thought Lenoris looked like a redshirt freshman quarterback that hadn't played a game in 30 days. There's a lot of plays down the field that were wide open, and he just didn't either airmailed it or didn't see him or whatever was going on there. Could you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the run game was a little limited too. I mean, obviously not having Rocket Sanders. I mean, I thought Attaway played a good physical football game like he had when he filled in and played so far this year.
Hurt too.
Yeah, I mean,
in the week. Yeah,
I guess it's hard to criticize the play calling because we didn't try to make as many throws. I felt like it was like there were vertical threats. Lenoris didn't pull the trigger, and then there were run lanes, and he didn't take off, and he just kind of found little dip and dunk plays, which I think was more of my frustration. Is like if the run lanes are there, just take off and go instead of dropping it off for 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, granted, I also had a 8-year-old pulling on me, asking me 1,700 questions throughout the game, and I didn't go back and watch it in person with the new year, but it's like we had no business losing that game. We were a better, more talented football team, but it is what it is.
All right, so let me ask you this then, because we're going to lead up to the Shane and Bielema thing in just a second. That was a moment right there where Shane. It's not like Shane Beamer just decided to just pop off. There was 2.5 quarters worth of stuff that led to that moment.
It was play call. What was early on in the game? There was a like a fumble. Very first quarter, like second drive.
Yep. You had some miscues. You had the Emanwori situation that unfolded at the beginning of the third quarter, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. I watched that whole thing.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned the substitution stuff with Illinois. So that's where I'm going to come back to with this. But then one of the other things was I don't know the last time we complain about it often, but I can't remember the last time where I saw as much holding as I saw in the game, and not one flag actually came out in 4 quarters. There's guys being tackled, and they're you're good. So I think that there was a lot of frustration.
Backyard football.
I mean, it was brutal what was going on out there. I don't know how much TV was showing and wasn't showing, but I can tell you right now what I saw. And that was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And there was no flags. So he was frustrated. Yeah. Let's get to the Bielema situation. Before we get to the play that happened in the end zone, the substitution stuff was very frustrating. They were upset about it on the Carolina sideline. My theory is, look, Carolina probably could have made some changes to mitigate some of that. Maybe just don't sub. But what do you do in a situation like that?
I mean, wasn't the Illini game guys like dropping when like in substitution standpoints and faking injuries and stuff to kind of delay up to big plays? I mean, I think that was a part of the frustration.
Yep.
from my recollection, was it an issue because we were kind of doing late subs? We had a delay a game called on us because of substitution penalty.
That's right. And Beamer was not happy about that. He said, "Wait a second here. What are we doing? How
But,
can you
I mean,
throw that at us without throwing one at them?"
Yeah, but like, what do you do from a standpoint of like, there is a rule that you have to give the defense a chance to match. I mean, if you send, I don't even know when that became a true thing. I don't know if that was a thing when I was in college or not, but like if you send somebody out with 15 seconds left, if you change the personnel with 15 seconds left and the defense has a chance to match, like it is in no interest of them to sprint off the field as fast as they can and have a guy line up, like say it's a nickel. Like you're going to have your nickel sprint out there as fast as he can and then line up to guard the slot receiver after sprinting 15, 20 yards and breathing for 2 seconds and getting the call in late. Like it's kind of like shitty on both ends.
It's a problem in college football. You don't see teams getting away with this in the NFL. Now, look, if we're being honest about all this, the obvious adjustment is don't substitute that late.
Don't substitute.
Like this is not a problem that was unavoidable. Yep. I get it. Illinois was clearly it was Bush League.
They were abusing it.
They're abusing it. It's a different chapter of the Lane Kiffin playbook to outright fake injuries. Well, they're not faking injuries. They're just saying if you're going to sub late in the play clock, well, then we're going to just drag our ass off the field to the point where you had to burn a very critical timeout in the fourth quarter, or to the point where you just seem out of sync on offense. I hate it. I think it's something that has to be addressed. College football, again, the NFL always seems to run a smoother ship, and college football has let this go on now where it's an obvious loophole that needs to be fixed. With that being said, you have to adjust to it. It's clear the officials aren't going to stop it, so stop subbing that late in the play clock.
Yeah, is this Mike? You'll be able to speak more on it, but is that a rule that was around when I was playing, or is that just
no, Pat, it's been tweaked, and we'll need to get our guy Dennis O'Keefe on again here soon. I know it was a really popular segment when we had him on after the LSU game, but the remember we didn't even have what they call a center judge now. That was the additional official that they added. Right. And so they just park on top of the ball when they see that offensive sub, and they will not let you snap the ball until the defense has its chance to do it. Now, what normally happens is the defense sprints on the field. The players sprint off, the new players sprint on. That's what you do. But Illinois decided, let's go ahead and take them out of their rhythm. Jamie, it's almost like a baseball player, stepping on and off the rubber a million times or stepping out of the batter's box. And just take the other team.
There's no doubt.
It's gamesmanship. It's not technically illegal. They found a loophole and they got away with it and took advantage of it. But no, Mark, Pat, to answer your question, they have tweaked that. I don't know exactly what year it was. Because if you remember, Saban's big complaint, one of his many complaints, RPOs was the other, was that we can't have this where offense is allowed to do that and we don't have enough time to get our guys in. Yeah. So that I think he was a big reason, the impetus for that change the way it has.
To your point, though, Mike, and here's the gray area with this, Pat. Here's the gray. The officials have the right, and it is in the rule book that if they feel that it is being taken advantage of, they can throw a delay of game penalty on the defense.
Yeah.
Yes.
They can penalize the defense, but you rarely see it because it's so. How do you know? Well, you just couldn't find his helmet. I mean, what are you going to do?
300-pound defensive lineman, I expect you to run faster off the field. Like no official is going to want to throw the flag on that and be very subjectively saying, well, it's obvious what you're doing, so I'm going to call flag. They're not going to do it. So, I mean, that's where I say they have to get together in the offseason. They have to tweak a few things. The injury thing is a big deal. I say you make them sit out the rest of the drive if they do that. That'll stop them from faking an injury instead of just one play. But this was another thing that I hadn't thought of because I hadn't seen a team do it the way Bielema did it. So, I mean, it's definitely gamesmanship. I hadn't seen it, and clearly Carolina, it bothered Carolina's offense. One of the many things that seemed to bother that offense on that day.
Yeah, I mean, but we do the cross the T out wide basically.
Yep.
I mean, it is universal that like you're not returning the ball if you do that. I mean, that was in the NFL when I was playing. I was the off returner, and I'm sitting there geared up. And as soon as I see the off returner throw his arms up, I'm like, okay, cool. I don't have to smash my face into somebody that's play awesome. But I mean, they're doing that, but then they get upset. I mean, and Beamer said in his press conference that they discussed this with the refs before the game, and they said, "Hey, if this is going to be an issue, let us know. We're not going to run it, but we're planning to do this." And they got the thumbs up and got cleared. So it's like we kind of like tinker the lines with the rules, and then so does he. But like, I don't know.
Well, Pat, to your point, because Shane said that
before in the situation.
Yeah, and Shane even said after the game too about the late subbing. He said, "Look, we do that too at South Carolina. Like." Everybody, if you can do it, you time it right. Okay, now run them out there. Maybe you force them into calling a timeout or whatever it is. I think it was frustrating to Coach Beamer and his staff. I don't think that was a focal point at all because, as you pointed out, that play in the end zone. Now, I would argue Illinois' side, well, the whistle never blew, so play till it gets there. But I understand what you're saying. It's a safety issue. I get that. Had they continued to run on that play, Illinois, and actually play until a whistle was actually blown,
probably that side of the field would have been empty. Yeah, they
could have tackled Nick Harbor in the end zone. I mean, like that thing could have blown up on South Carolina big time. Yeah. But obviously it didn't. But I think you take all of this stuff that happened, the fake injuries. I mean, they just kept falling down. It was amazing watching some of these guys look
like Ole Miss all over again
and just keel over. You know, and you got all this gamesmanship going on, Pat. You had the Emanwori situation, and then the kid goes down for Illinois. Shane, you were standing right there. I was standing right there. Shane walks over to that young man, pats him on the helmet, pats him on the back, asks him, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yes, sir." And Shane goes back to his sideline. Mike, you just made a baseball reference. I'm going to make another one here. This is a kind of a similar situation, Pat and Mike, to Brett Bielema doing what a manager does in baseball to get an umpire's attention. He walks out to the mound to talk to his pitcher, waits till the guy walks to the mound, and then tells him that his strike zone sucks. But in this situation, he walked all the way across the field, really not to check on his own player, but more to get the attention of the Gamecock coaching staff and the team and taunt them the way that he did. And I personally thought, I know I get pushback on this. I thought Shane Beamer that was the moment. If you're gonna lose it and try to get things going and get some energy, that's where you do it. And I thought he did a great job. But I'll leave the floor to y'all. I'll let you respond to
that. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, look, I think, and you guys chopped it up in the first hour. And I didn't catch all of it, so I don't want to be redundant. The game was a ball of frustration on so many levels.
Sure.
Right? Not to take away anything from Illinois, but I still think Carolina's a better team. And even with Emanwori quitting, which, and by the way, I can't say kudos to Emanwori for playing a half. If you don't want to play, if you don't want to finish the game, don't come out there. That's how I feel, Pat. We might disagree on that. I think it's bush league. I
was surprised. I was surprised him and TJ Sanders played. Like,
right.
First, second round grades. Like, they're not really helping themselves. I get it. Like, Beamer wanted the 10th win, and that was the whole idea: is go get the 10th win.
Yeah,
but like, go get the win and don't.
Well, and then if you're going to do that, correct me if I'm wrong. I've talked to a few different people on this. The way I understood it was Shane Beamer got blindsided by this. Did
totally
you hear something different? Yeah. So
I did not.
This is where it differs from Cam Ward. Mario Cristobal knew Cam Ward was going to sit the second half. He was going to get his little record, and then he was going to not play in the second half. To go out there, play the first half, and then tell your coach middle of the game, I ain't going out in the second half.
Well, and he didn't even tell Shane. That's right, not who delivered the message.
Shane figured it out after seeing him not on the field, right?
31 ran out there, and then Stafford came over and informed him, and then they had a heated conversation about it.
Look, he's a local kid, and I've seen him interviewed. He's a likable guy, and I wish him well in the next level, but I'm not going to sit here and say, well, that's okay. You know, at least he played a half. No, that's Bush League. That's garbage. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well,
you don't want to see that again. If that's your mentality, before this thing becomes like the new hip thing to do for kids that are going to be drafted high, I'll give you a half and then I'll sit in the second. Do me a favor, don't come at all.
Well, and I think that's exactly, Pat, you know Shane Beamer better than all of us inside and out. I think had he known this was going to happen, he wouldn't have even made the trip, number one. The question I have, though, is like, how would this have changed the preparation for the game had he known that Nick Emanwori wasn't going to play in the second half? Or would it have changed it? What do you think?
I don't think it changes much. I mean, your defensive identity is you are who you are. I mean, if Nick gets hurt in a game, what's the difference, right? They're not going to change the game plan because of that.
Okay.
But, I mean, maybe you have another package. But, I mean, Peyton played, has played the last 2 years at certain points. And I like watching those games that we didn't change what we did or our identity. Yeah, I mean, if Nick would have, I think, told Coach Beamer that, I don't know. I would, like, Coach Beamer has, like, he's a player's coach. So everybody loves him. Like, he has a good relationship. I wonder how that would have went if he would have been okay with that. I don't know. Probably not, knowing him and knowing his intensity and, like, his demeanor and what he's about. But that's a personal thing.
Yeah, right. My initial reaction to how would it have been different is, well, Peyton would have gotten all the reps. Yeah, and he would have been more prepared than just to fill in and spot duty. Obviously, that's part of his job because he's in the number 2. So if Nick were to have gotten hurt, then he would have gotten.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just different. Like when you like a 10-play period, like the starters get 7 of the 10, 8 of the 10, and the backups get 2. So yes, but they also move it around to make sure everybody hits every rep and walkthroughs and all that stuff. Like it ain't like he was thrown out there blind.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, he's playing with DQ. He's playing with Demetrius Knight. He's playing with other guys that maybe he needs a little bit more of a flow to, compared to playing with the backup safety, the backup backers. But how was Disney, JB? Did you just Disney?
Hey, I will call you later and tell you about my SeaWorld story. Pat, we got you just for a couple of minutes, so I want to wrap 2 things on this as you're a valuable tool in this program.
Next.
Mike made a point just a minute ago, and I think he made a good point. I still look at these 2 football teams, and I think that South Carolina is still a better football team, but they lost the game. But I want to make sure we do give Illinois credit, because down the stretch, they executed. South Carolina did not, particularly in the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And Illinois won the football game. So I want to give them credit on that. As much as I thought a lot of it was Bush League, Pat, at the end of the day, especially in the fourth quarter of the game, Illinois, I thought, kind of took it to Carolina, especially running the football.
I personally thought myself that if this is a game that is close in the fourth quarter, knowing Illinois, knowing kind of their identity as a tough football team, maybe not the most talented, but a gritty, tough football team, pretty similar to a South Carolina that we've been talking about all year, is like this is a resilient, tough team that's never out of a game, like wins close games. I knew if it was close, that like the fact that they have their 2 backs and they are more of a, maybe not as a skilled football team, but a physical football team, that I knew that if it was a close game in the end, that, there's a good chance. The line being at 11.5 or whatever it was, I knew was absolutely crazy. I knew it was going to be a tough, hard-fought football game because it's 2 well-coached teams, 2 tough physical teams. But no, I mean, Illinois, like they played without their top receiver, who's potentially going to be a top 3-4 round picks.
Yeah.
Too. So like I know we had Kennard and Rocket not play, and then obviously Nick in the second half. But and I know that's been an excuse for several people across the board on social media about like, well, we didn't have all of our players. Well, they didn't have all theirs. But this is the crappy part of where we're at in college football is like bowl games, players are sitting out of like, which it sucks and I hate because if you're going to strap it up and you're going to fight your ass off for, starting in January, that's when preparation starts. Like start in January and you're gearing up with winter workouts, then you're going through spring ball and then some workouts and like embrace the suck kind of mentality going through fall camp and then a 12-game regular season in the SEC where you're getting your face kicked in week out. And then the very, like what I tell Weston when he does sports or does like we're working on ladder drills now is like the easiest thing in a ladder drill to do is to relax at the very end and screw it up at the very end. And I'm like, buddy, it's like you're the receiver who runs a great route at the top of your route and then the ball, you're about to finish the catch. And you relax at the very last split second and you drop it. Like, wow, you did really good for 95%, but you sucked the last 5%. And overall, you sucked on the rep in general. So sucks that we didn't finish that some guys didn't finish what they started. But, as a former player at Carolina, blood, sweat, and tears, like it's a shitload of work that goes into it.
Yeah. Well,
I do love the fact that bowl game, for those that think, well, if you're not in the playoff, these teams don't really want to be there and don't care. I didn't sense that at all from either team. I mean, I thought players there was hard hitting going out there. There was no lack of intensity. You had Shane, clearly no lack of intensity there. Look, there's two teams that desperately wanted to win that game, and Illinois made more plays down the stretch. And as much as everything went wrong for Carolina, you had an open Josh Simon in the end zone.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we can't not do a 3-hour show and not mention the fact that that's a throw that eventually Lenore Sellers has to make.
Well, he usually does make that throw. I was surprised that he did it.
Yeah, look, I'm on record. I think Lenore Sellers has a chance to be something remarkably special, and I don't think the money had anything to. If anything, I'd be more stressed for him if he hadn't gotten paid because it might be on his mind that he's playing for a bigger bag. He got the bag.
What was the bag? I've heard rumors. Does anybody know the true number of the bag?
$25 million. $25 million. That's my number.
It was over
$1 billion.
Yeah, 1 million.
It was very. Look, I think it's a tribute to Carolina to be able to pony up that.
Yeah.
And obviously, you knew other teams would be knocking on his door and trying to poach him. Sure. There's no doubt about that. But I mean. There's no, and this is almost true of every freshman quarterback out there. He has a chance to work on accuracy. That wasn't great all year long. There are other games where he missed open targets. So you've got a situation in the offseason to get better, and I think he will. I think 100% he will. But you had a chance there to win it. The play calling was what it was. You can't pin it on Dowell Loggins anymore. People wanted to, every time something went wrong, blame it on him. Now it's Shula. You had a chance to win the game without Rocket Sanders, which clearly they missed him.
Yep.
No offense to the other running backs, but
he's the bell cow.
He's the bell cow, man. And so the defense did. JC pointed this out. What other teams did? I mean, they basically said, we're not gonna let you run all over the place, Lenoris. If you're gonna beat us, you're gonna beat us throwing the football.
Yep.
And some throws you make, and some throws he did not make. And so that's something that, as a sophomore, as a third-year guy, I think will be better and improved and make him a lot more dangerous.
He's going to be one of the most special players to ever come out of South Carolina.
No doubt about it.
No, not a doubt in my mind in what he's about and how he handles his business.
Outstanding.
He is special. And kudos to us, like you said, Mike, for us being able to, pull the trigger and whatever the number ended up being to solidify him being here because he's a difference maker. Guys in the portal want to come play with Lenore Sellers. High school prospects want to come play with Lenore Sellers.
No doubt. Look at that receiving class.
We're putting ridiculous. He's helping put South Carolina. I mean, we were on the map. We're off the map. We're back on the map. We're off the map. Like it's been kind of that trajectory of South Carolina, but like we've cemented ourselves going into next year. Like we're going to be a force to be reckoned with because of Lenore Sellers and the other guys we have on the team. But I mean, having a guy like that definitely helps.
Well, that's where the hype's going to come from. When you have a star quarterback, they start talking about you. Andy Staples already has him in the top 10 for next year. We'll come back to that in a little bit. But, Pat, they are bringing in another quarterback. Aaron Nolan will transfer in. I actually think this is going to be wonderful for Lenore Sellers and Aaron Nolan to go head-to-head in the spring. This is Lenore Sellers' team. The competition is good, especially at that position. As we wrap it, 9-4, probably not a lot of people saw it coming, knocking on the door of the playoffs. And now for the first time in Shane Beamer's tenure as a coach, as a head coach, he's going to have to deal with high offseason expectations. So over the next few months, what do you anticipate the national now? We know what it'll be like locally.
Yeah.
What do you anticipate this program dealing with for the first time in a long time, since you played a little bit after under Steve Spurrier?
Well, I mean, like Shane's not immune to it. I mean, obviously with his dad and like being around it forever, like he understands that game and how that works. And Shane's one of the best people I've seen in the country that handles media. I mean, he handles it in a professional way. Like he's an emotional guy, and that's why, our Carolina fans love him so much. But I think like having the transfer portal as a thing, like I think, if you're relying on a boatload of freshmen coming in and playing next year with that type of hype, that might be a little different. But with the portal and having guys that have some experience and how you can replenish your roster through the transfer portal, more mature guys that have been there, done that, handled the media, handled the spotlight already, I think that helps. I also think it's huge to the people that Shane has in the building. I think it's huge to have Mike Shula, Clayton White, Joey D, Derek Moore, Luke Day, like the entire staff in that building. Like that's their job this offseason, is to bring these guys back down to life. Like, you had a killer year, but hey, guess what? January workouts maybe start next Monday. Hey, January 13th, work starts again. We're starting from ground level zero, brick by brick. Every single day, we're getting better, 1% each day. It has to be the mentality. They haven't arrived. Lenore Sellers hasn't arrived. There's a body of work there, but he's not as good as he wants to be. He's not as good as the Carolina fans want him to be. So there's a lot of work ahead. And as a fullback, like that excites me, right? Like I have an opportunity to go get better for 9 months until I have to play my first football game against somebody else, against Virginia Tech. Like, let's go. It's time to start laying the foundation.
I think the message is simple. Y'all were one win shy of the college football playoff.
Yep.
One win. We got to find one extra win this offseason if we can build on what we did last year. I know there's more to it than that, but to simplify. Well, Pat, look, we'll obviously, continue to have you in and talk some ball here and there. We're not going to force you to have to endure this nonsense every Monday. But Tailgate Talks will continue to go every week, and we obviously encourage folks to pull up the Chief Sports app or head to Gamecocks Plus, or you can listen in podcast form, whatever. They're going to shift gears a little bit. They'll have football, baseball, basketball, all kinds of folks covered.
Soccer, volleyball, swimming. Yep. I don't know about all that, but we're gonna obviously with football kind of dying out, we're gonna be a little different. We're gonna have some social media influencers. We're going to have a bunch of different guests, some local successful business people here. There's lots of stories to tell, lots of stories to share. I mean, all kind of encompassing South Carolina and what this place has done to all of us and what it means to us. But there's a lot of opportunities out there, and we're going to explore that and try to continue to pump out some of the best Gamecock content out there. Steven's got a creative mind too.
Yes, he does.
And it's been fun babysitting and doing this again. But we had a really good time down in Orlando. We had about 50 to 60 Gamecock fans showed up for our show at GB's Bottle Shop. I saw a bunch of high school buddies. They showed up as well. So it was pretty cool to go, have a drink, take some questions from fans, and it was very, very raw and real, and that's what Stephen and I are trying to do. It's not as polished, I think, as we would like to be at times, but it's real and genuine. That's what we want to continue to pump out there.
You do a great job. We're always glad to have you. Happy New Year to you and Kirsten and your kids and your entire family. probably much like us here, it is good to have the kids back in school.
No shit. Yes, it is. Back to normalcy.
That's right. Thanks, brother. We'll holler at you a little bit later.
Appreciate you guys.
Pat.
Thanks, man. There you go. The great Pat DiMarco.